However, how beautifully the word freedom sounds. Although few people understand what this freedom consists of. But most people really want to be free, but free from what or from whom? From society? This is impossible. From problems? Rich people also have enough problems, only they are different. Do people want to be free from poverty? This is closer to the truth, but still, in order not to be a beggar, you need not so much money as a certain way of thinking, capable of solving various problems. Maybe money makes a person free from work? But this is a good idea, and perhaps we should develop it in this article. Does money make a person free from work? I think it does, but not everyone and not always. To understand how to achieve at least some freedom, it is necessary to understand why we do not have this freedom yet. Let's take a look at our life, or rather, at the rat race that we call life. I am sure that most of you, my readers, are not doing so badly with money, because the attention to sites like mine is shown mainly by smart people who are more or less able to take care of themselves. But how do you do it, friends? How do you take care of yourselves? Probably, you work several hours every day, not counting weekends, to earn enough money for you. In other words, you work a lot. Do you know what distinguishes a free person from a slave? No, it is not the presence of an expensive car, or expensive repairs in the apartment, house, or all the things that he bought and owns that distinguish him. As one wealthy person who went through several stages of development told me, a slave works, and a free person does what he loves. A free person creates. A slave has no choice what to do. He is forced to work hard, and at a hateful job, because otherwise he will not get his bone. Can you imagine a state when a person does something not for money, but for pleasure, for interest, because he wants to? It's like children, they do a lot just like that, out of interest in this or that type of activity, and not because they want to eat. Can you afford that? Can you be free to choose what to do? True, children do not know how to earn money, but a smart and free person knows how. He is free as a child, but at the same time smart enough not to work against his will. He does something not out of necessity and not because it is required, for someone, some asshole boss, but because he wants to. And at the same time, he has more money than the person who works his ass off for his salary. How is this possible? How can you do something for the soul and still have money? And how, please tell me, is it possible to live a life that is extremely tense and exhausting, which leads a person to stress, wearing out his body, and not understand why you need it at all? How can you burn most of your life at a job that a person hates fiercely, and even be afraid of losing it? How can you bring yourself to such a state that your whole life turns into serving the master, in the person of your employer? How can you rely on a pension in old age, and not on your children and not on yourself? How can you live with the feeling that you are just expendable material in the hands of others and do nothing to change this state of affairs? How can you be an idiot degenerate, of which there are unfortunately many in our time, and still survive? It turns out that people live such a terrible life for them, which can hardly be called life. Those who create for the soul and earn good money at the same time also manage to live an interesting life for themselves. And why not? Why do people allow themselves to be exploited instead of striving for a fairer and freer life? In my opinion, if you are going to bust your ass, then it is better for yourself and for yourself than for another uncle and his fucking company, firm, plant, factory. His asset is not your asset, he will replace you if necessary, and the work you put into his company, firm, plant, factory will become your investment in someone else's happiness. What prevents you from living, well, if not a life completely free from exhausting work, because it is difficult to just take and refuse the rat race right away. You need to approach it wisely, at least a calmer and less irritated life, in which you do not have to constantly rush somewhere and always fight with something, for the sake of someone else. You do not believe in such a life? And in vain. You don't have to believe in it, you have to know about it. Or maybe you think that the lack of money prevents you from living a freer life? You are wrong. Money is not a cause, it is a consequence. In fact, something else prevents you from effectively managing your life. Fear is what drives the behavior of most people. You are afraid. afraid of being left without money, afraid of not having time for something, afraid of giving in to someone in something, afraid of not being like everyone else, afraid of dying of hunger. In the end, your life is primarily connected with fear. You are bought with this fear, you are controlled like a doll with the help of fear. Then come your desires, limitless desires, most of which are not even yours, but they make you break your ass day after day, for the sake of another toy trinket. Many people do not know how to live within their means at all. They are so greedy that their salary is simply not enough for all their whims, and therefore they are forced to take out loans. Well, what kind of freedom can we talk about here? What kind of freedom from work? Yes, money is what all the thoughts of the modern average person revolve around, who is forced to suppress his fear and satisfy his desires through daily, persistent work, to which he devotes himself entirely and in which he sees the only way to survive. And people, as I see it, like it. They like being employees of some large and respectable company, in which they are valued, while they have life juices. They like to be cogs in someone else's mechanism. If you are one of these people and you are not satisfied with something in my words, then do not throw slippers at me and point out to me my misunderstanding of something. I do not insist on the truth of my point of view, so if you want, accept it. If you do not want, do not accept it. Rest assured, I am not telling you fairy tales here. I am passing on to you my own experience and knowledge, as well as the experience and knowledge of others, both successful and unsuccessful people. It is better to learn from the mistakes of others than from your own, you must admit. I know many people who wasted their lives, missing out on a lot of opportunities that they could have used if they had known what I am writing about here now. And now, having realized in their old age the complete meaninglessness of their lives, these people have fallen into severe depression. It could not have been otherwise. To realize in old age that you were simply used as a condom, that you were only an intermediary in other people getting pleasure from life. This is hard, very hard. For many of you, life has provided an amazing opportunity to learn something from my articles, and not from your own skin. Use it. So, my friends, be careful with work. Try not to joke, otherwise it will quickly subjugate you. Because today everyone is chasing money, but they don't understand what they need it for. Work made a man out of a monkey, right? Wrong. Work made a slave out of a monkey. And now, when a person is completely immersed in work, which, perhaps, is not interesting to him at all and even disgusting, he dreams of freedom, freedom from work. But he does not have this freedom, that's it. But we have freedom of choice. We can choose. But, excuse me, what to choose? Which toothpaste to buy, in what packaging and at what price? Oh, well, yes, we can choose our leader. That's the most important and valuable thing we have. But do we have it? My friends, can you imagine sheep choosing a shepherd? Neither can I. In short, I won't give you countless examples here, trying to explain that things are going badly with freedoms, but I'll say it right away that we are not free. And we are especially not free because of money, for which we are often forced to do things we don't want to do. Now ask yourself, how much money do you need to become free? Let me clarify, to become free from work? How much money do you need for this? And what do you need in general? Do you know, understand? Who in your life decides what you need? You, or someone else? Is your whole life your own choice, or whose? Let's return to the discussion of what prevents us from gaining freedom. It is quite obvious that in order to become people free from work, you must first of all get rid of two of your weaknesses, fear and greed. Or rather, you must take control of these instinctive feelings, because it is impossible to get rid of them, and, in moderation, both are necessary. Everything that nature has given us, we need. However, the overwhelming majority of people have so much fear and greed that this crap can and should be scooped out of them by the bucketful. Fear drives you to work. It also makes you greedy in everything, in money, in food, in relationships, in everything. It is precisely because of the fear of losing what they have stolen that the nobility, represented by oligarchs, bankers, corrupt officials and other scum, who have stolen millions and billions, continue to steal even more, because in this way these thieves suppress their fear. the fear of being left without their charm. And their growing appetites, of course, also make them steal more. They no longer want to be a free queen, they want to be a mistress of the sea. Some are so blinded by greed that even their instinct for self-preservation is dulled, as a result of which they either get a punch in the forehead or end up in jail. But basically, many of them feel very good. So try to feed all these hangers-on, of which there are more and more every day. They are not sterile, they reproduce. And you thought why you have to work so much? Well, that's exactly why. Because there are a bunch of monkeys sitting on your neck, and every day there are more of them. Such are the laws of life. If you are not among those who milk, then you are the one who is milked. So, my friends, we are talking here exclusively about animal instincts. And they also say that man is a rational being. I wonder what kind of person they mean when they say that. In general, sometimes the greed of suckers ruins them, because it is simply physically impossible to grab more and more. There is a limit to everything. But the majority of people, because of their greed and their fear, ruin their lives when they dedicate it to work they do not love, and that is meaningless for them. Fear and greed stand in your way to freedom. Of course, there are people among us who, understanding all of the above, led a different, smarter, even one might say, cunning way of life. They earn a certain amount of money and then simply stop working. And living on the money they earned, they come up with something that will allow them to never return to work. Your humble servant belongs to such people. I don't give a damn about this business, which took up a lot of my time and energy, which forced me to work hard every day to live a little better than ordinary workers. Therefore, having saved up a certain amount of money, I didn't spend it on all sorts of nonsense, on a new cart, and other crap that advertising foists on us today, but decided to take some time off and change my line of work. The crisis, however, slightly disrupted my plans. I didn't have time to take it into account and fully prepare for it. But if I had done so, I could have even made money on it. And yet, I managed to make certain changes in my life in time. Unfortunately, I made a lot of mistakes too, because you can't keep track of everything. I'm a fool, I didn't have time to convert all my money into dollars, and now you can see for yourself what this money has turned into. It has lost half its value. Do you understand what this means? Crises, devaluation, inflation and similar tricks are robbery of the population. People are simply robbed of what they have earned so that they work more. You won't gnaw on the money, and what you can buy with it is wildly expensive. It turns out that you worked for free if you didn't have time to spend your money. Well, isn't that slavery? You went to a job you didn't like, worked like crazy, and now what you earned has turned into shit. So what? Did your work help you get rid of fear? Did it lead you to at least some kind of freedom? Of course, you and I need to limit our appetites, but when it happens in such a crude way, then it is impossible to feel anything but anger in such situations. After all, if your money turns into trash, which is essentially what it is, then you will have to work again, work a lot. Do you understand that? And it's good if you work for yourself, but if you have to work for someone else, then, friends, your sense of self-worth will simply be trampled into the dirt. I can't even imagine now how I will work for someone other than myself, when someone will give me orders on what and how to do. It's terrible. It turns out that I'm a fool, and my boss is smart, I'm shit, and he's an alpha male, he's a winner, he's a lion, and I'm a damn mouse. I don't even know what I'll do to myself if it happens that I can't feed myself and I have to go work for someone else. It's just a nightmare for me. Of course, I won't lay hands on myself, I'm not that crazy, but I'll definitely beat myself up. And I'll beat myself up so badly that I, the son of a bitch, won't think it's enough. I hope it won't come to that, because the type of activity that I've recently begun to actively master excludes any possibility of bankruptcy. But anything can happen in life, and if tomorrow many of us are forced to work for food, it won't surprise me at all. And we are all to blame for this, not the authorities, not the bankers, not the rich, but all of us. After all, we are all greedy, lazy, cowardly, impudent, stupid, aggressive. Each person has their own proportions of these qualities. and thanks to them we cannot live in peace. We invent our own problems. So, as you can see, becoming a free person from work is not easy. First of all, it is not morally easy, because for this you need to work hard on yourself and turn yourself from a monkey into a human and not try to be like everyone else. If the herd wants to plow and consume, let it plow and consume. Let it live as the owner orders. Some people themselves do not want to take responsibility for their lives, and therefore, they will live accordingly, in fear and constant tension. If a person does not have his own head on his shoulders, he will definitely pay for it. And you, if you want to become free, do what you love, which will bring you money, and do not work for money for the man. Forgive me, I do not know any other recipe for becoming free from work. Have you seen what millionaires and billionaires do? Yes, they play golf, have fun, travel, enjoy life, and of course, they manage their money wisely, buying people like you for it and making them work for them. The smartest of the rich are engaged in self-development, read philosophers, communicate with smart people. In general, they work not for money, but on themselves. But again, to come to such a life, to come to wealth, you must not toil all day for money, at a shitty job, and even for someone else, but take care of yourself, become smarter. You see for yourself that special people come to big money, cunning, adaptable, impudent, deceitful, smart, understanding what you do not understand. Don't think that I am a staunch opponent of hired labor, that's not true. I don't see the problem in the work, but in what it is in most cases. Of course, I hate working for someone else, because my experience was negative. I have my own cockroaches in my head. But on a partnership basis, I am happy to do certain work for other people, within my competence, and I do it very well and responsibly. But primitive hired labor, when I am a servant, and someone is the boss who will give me orders, do this, do that, like some kid, that's what I hate. For me, such hired labor, if I do it, is an admission by me of the fact that I cannot take care of myself. I am like a child, I depend on someone. That's why I hate it. However, you may disagree with me. I understand this. You have every reason to disagree with me. There are different jobs, that's true. Therefore, I reserve the right to change my point of view on this issue in the future. After all, only fools and dead men never change their minds. Of course, there are good employers, wonderful people who respect their workers. There are good jobs, interesting, creative, where it is pleasant to work and the salary is decent. All this is clear. By the way, I also worked for wonderful people and at a very interesting job, where I grew up as a specialist and about which I have the warmest memories. However, for personal growth, you still need to move on. You need to move away from hired work, to working for yourself, and, if possible, to hiring other people who will work for you and for you. This is progress, you understand? In general, if you look at this issue objectively, then we will understand a simple and obvious thing. I hope for all of us, that the quality of the majority of people, their attitude to themselves and their views on life will depend on the quality of their lives. The quality of the people will depend first of all on the quality of the society that consists of these people. If you allow someone to treat you like serfs, you will be serfs, slaves, dirt, which is full behind the fence. I once worked for a company when I was very young, a brat, and so, they told us there are plenty of trash like you. If you don't work, as we say, others will. So what was I supposed to remember best in my life? Good moments and good people, or words like these? We remember the bad better than the good, that's just the way we are. And when they tell you that you can be easily replaced and you, God forbid, agree with this and swallow this thought, you lose yourself. Your resignation to the thought that you are nobody kills you. You cease to be a person. You become one of many losers who can be ignored and who can be disrespected, because losers do not respect themselves. Of course, if you are a good specialist, you are unlikely to be told this. But understand the main thing, that if the state produces 1,000, say, lawyers and doctors, then in reality it needs 100 such specialists, and the rest are being prepared in reserve. so they will always find a replacement for you if you are not a super professional. But you, if you do not know how to sell your work and your knowledge, if you do not respect yourself and do not have a sense of self-worth, so simply, you will not be able to replace one employer with another, even if you have such an opportunity. Depression and lack of self-confidence will not allow you to do this. I am the master, you are the servant, that is how we live today. A society of entrepreneurs is much more effective and much freer than a society of disenfranchised slaves. Megre wrote about this in his book. Anastasia, our president, spoke about this once when he said that 70% of the population should be engaged in entrepreneurship. World experience shows us this. I understand, of course, that initiative is suppressed in many places. Our society still cannot live without master-slave relations, but a positive trend is still visible, and I hope that it will not die out. A burning, tireless passion for freedom is capable of overcoming any obstacles, breaking through any walls, climbing to any heights.